I'm really sorry to say it, but you are wasting your time stretching if you're making these super common stretching mistakes. You won't see any progress, you won't increase your flexibility, and that precious time of yours that you're dedicating to lengthening your muscles might as well be spent twiddling your thumbs. Stretching and increasing our flexibility is actually a little bit more complex than we might give it credit for. Just put the effort in and stretch and you'll become more flexible, right? Well, not quite. Increasing your flexibility is a delicate balance of working with both changing the physical structure of the muscle and the more expansive concept of manipulating the nervous system. So in this video, I will run you through the 3 biggest errors that people make when stretching, which not only can inhibit your progress, but can actually regress it. The good news, they are pretty damn simple to implement. So to understand the first mistake, we first need a brief understanding of how our nervous system responds when we take a stretch. The stretch reflex is the name given to an automatic response within each and every muscle every time it is passively stretched. When the little receptors inside the muscle sense that it's being stretched, this reflex is triggered, which causes the muscle to contract, to hold on, or to resist the stretch, if you will. And you wouldn't be wrong at all in thinking,
well, that doesn't sound very helpful if I'm trying to get more flexible.
But the key here, the secret to success, is working with this reflex, not battling against it. Because the important thing to know is that the amount of contraction, the amount of resistance that this stretch reflex kicks up is entirely variable depending on how you stretch. So big mistake number 1 is going about your stretch in a way which makes the stretch reflex kick off big time. It sets off the alarm bells, all sirens are blazing. That thing is contracting the muscle you're trying to stretch with everything it possibly can. And you can bet that despite your efforts, you're not gaining any flexibility this way. And that mistake is entering your stretch too quickly. In the same way that if you want to pet a nervous dog, you have to approach slowly and calmly so the little thing doesn't feel threatened, has time to think about what you're doing and time to decide that actually you're kind of all right and yeah, okay, you can pet him. The stretch reflex is just the same as the little nervous dog. If you run up to the dog because you are just so keen and you want to shower him with love and fuss and attention, he's bolting out the door at best or biting off your hand. You need to give your muscles and their respective nervous system time to adapt the sensations of that stretch, to realize that injury is not on the doorstep and that a strong protective contraction is not necessary. It allows time for the stretch reflex to stand down slightly, opening the door to allow the muscle to release, to relax, and to lengthen, so you can actually improve upon its flexibility. So think about entering your stretch in 3 phases. Phase 1 is a very mild stretch for you to start to connect your mind to the muscle. A couple of moments later, use a nice big exhale to then move to a mid-level of intensity. You're certainly aware that you're stretching here, it's not easy, but you're not at your threshold yet. Aim to stay here for around 10 seconds, concentrating on smooth, long breaths, before then again, exhaling and moving to the threshold of your stretch, where you can stay for as long as you're choosing. I would say aim for a minimum of 20 seconds. And I'll talk about how to recognize where this threshold is alongside big mistake number 3 in just a short moment. And let me give you a little bonus point to go with this one. If you enter a stretch quickly and then oops, remember about this video and back out a little to try again more slowly, you'd be better off switching to an entirely different muscle group to let time pass, as unfortunately you can't just take back the stretch reflex reaction like that. Just like if you ran at that poor nervous dog, but then remembered, oh wait, that's not cool, it's too late. The dog is bolted, he doesn't trust you anymore. So moving on to number 2, there is a lot of nuance behind how long you should hold a stretch for. There are various studies which support various timeframes because ultimately there's a lot of moving parts to flexibility training. Level of experience, methods of stretching, the commitment to a program, stretch intensity, the type of stretch you're carrying out. I could go on. A great rule of thumb though for newcomers is nothing less than 30 seconds per muscle. But here's the catch. Remember when you were a kid playing hide and seek and you had to cover your eyes and count to 10 before you were allowed to go and hunt down your friends or your siblings? Do you reckon you ever actually got to 10 full seconds? The eagerness to get out there and hunt them down, the sheer impatience. I reckon my average was around 6 seconds. And as much as we can think that we're now all grown up, there will always be that little person inside of us who counts too quickly because you're eager to get on to the next thing. Your big mistake number 2 is not timing your stretches. I guarantee if you aren't timing them, not only are you not holding them as long as you think you are, but you're likely holding your second side for even less than the first. The fact that most people stretch at the end of their workout, when their brain is starting to move on to whatever task awaits them next, means stretching is pretty much always rushed. There's so many different muscles, we kind of want to be flexible all over, so we stretch a little bit of everything, but actually what we end up doing is wasting 10 minutes making pretty much no difference to every single muscle you touch upon. So get the stopwatch out, or heck, even go for an old school sand timer if you like. If you're serious about wanting to improve your flexibility, then don't think of stretching as the side dish to your workout, or worse yet, the mint that comes with your bill. Shift your mindset and tell yourself it's part of the main meal. You have to give your flexibility training the time and attention it needs. Okay, so finally, number 3, I would say this one is definitely the hardest to implement of them all, but only on a psychological level. Let's say, for example, you decide that you want to improve your bicep strength, and you know that a bicep curl is the holy grail of bicep strengthening exercises because somebody on YouTube told you so. So you decide you're going to do 3 sets of bicep curls 3 times a week. Now, would you expect your strength to improve if this was the weight that you were repping? I'm hoping I've not offended anyone's bicep strength with this example and that the resounding answer is no. Of course not. You can't expect to improve your strength if you're not challenging it with something relatively heavy, right? This 1 kilogram dumbbell doesn't have enough intensity to bring about any change. And so big mistake number 3 is exactly this in stretching form. You are lacking intensity in your stretches, which is required to bring about any change. So let's take this exact bicep strengthening example and pass it over to a hamstring stretch. And you decide you're going to stretch your hamstrings for 3 sets 3 times a week because somebody on YouTube told you to do so. Maybe you do it as you're scrolling on social media or chatting to a friend or queuing up the next track in your playlist. The likelihood of you actually stretching to a challenging intensity in such a scenario is slim to none. A mild stretch where you can just about feel the muscle that you're stretching is not enough intensity to stimulate change, adaptation, growth, and ultimately improved flexibility. Now, obviously, we need to be mindful of not going to the other end of the scale and stretching with such intense intensity that we are risking injury and getting the stretch reflex firing on all cylinders. But it needs to be challenging. It needs to be uncomfortable. Learning the difference between pain and discomfort is a journey that's individual for each of us. There is no definitive answer. It takes practice and patience to feel it in your own body, but a nice rule of thumb is that you should be at a point where having a conversation really isn't something that you want to be dealing with in that moment, but you have control of your breathing and you can relax the parts of your body that you wish to relax, such as your fists, such as your face. If you can't shake that inner feeling of panic despite your efforts to be calm, this could indicate that you've taken it a little too far. So if you're on a journey of wanting to improve your flexibility, you'll definitely want to go and check out this video next on the hidden risks of stretching so that you can weigh up those options.